It's like they advance a project, but then they just leave that. So you can jump into the next thing very easily. That's what makes them a boss. They can see from the outside because they deal with Saturn. So they can be realistic with the way they see ideas. So that's why they could be very restrictive. And depending on what sign you're going to have Capricorn in your birth chart, and depending what house it's in, that's going to give you a better understanding of where that Saturnian energy is playing out in your chart. So if you have your Capricorn in the 7th house, then you might place a lot of boundaries, or you're placed upon with a lot of boundaries in your relationships. When we understand Capricorn and we go back to its archetype, we have to always remember structure, work, discipline, but in the way they think. So it's not only work, it's whatever they're thinking about, whatever they're working on, they're always going to have that structural thinking way of doing things. So depending on the life situation, you're going to have that Capricorn archetypal structure. It's going to give you a better lens on how to apply your logic, your thinking, your practicality, but in a way that works for you. And if you don't have any planets in the house Capricorn is in, then you can see where the Lord is at. I'm going to do another video talking about that. For a quick explanation, let's say I have Capricorn in the 5th house and I don't have any planets there. That means that I'm not specifically putting out any energy, any influence into that life situation. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get influenced. It's already telling me that within my 5th house, if I have Capricorn here, I have those characteristics here. I have the characteristics of the sea goat, of being stubborn in the way I express myself, and placing structure on how I would express myself. Because the 5th house is expression, has to do with the inner child. We're coming out of the 4th house, so the 5th house is transitioning to getting a form of self-expression. The 4th house is the womb, how you were nurtured. So now you can go free. You can have your sense of self-expression. If I would have the Capricorn in my 5th house, which I actually do, that tells you that I like to put structure in the way I express myself. Or I'm put upon with structure with the Capricorn archetypal structures of my life situation of the 5th house. But just for the sake of this example, because there's not any planets here, then I would look at what house Saturn is at in your chart. So if I had Saturn in the 8th house, I don't know if you guys can see. So if I have Saturn ruling my 5th house and it's in the 8th house, the 5th house, your form of self-expression, you could apply in the 8th house, which the 8th house is deep things. So how you express yourself, you should put that upon your 8th house first. That's going to give you a better understanding of how to apply it with your 5th house. That's up for another video. I'm going to go more in depth into how we can use our empty houses. Going back to Capricorn's archetype, they're the 3rd earth sign. There's 3 earth signs: Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. These 3 earth signs, they all resonate, but they are not the same. They have different set of how they put their structure. They're all grounded, they're all practical with the way they think. They deal with the thinking and the logic of the mind. Each sign is going to give you a better understanding of how it's going to play out depending on its modality. So there's 3 types of modalities: mutable, fixed, and cardinal. So the mutable is the one that flows of the 3. The fixed, it has a fixed idea or it's stuck on something. And then cardinal is the initiator. I know we're talking about Capricorn only, but I want to talk about the 3 of them so you know the difference of the earth signs. So Taurus is the fixed, Virgo, mutable, Capricorn, cardinal. The main difference of the 3 is their modality. If you think about a building, Taurus would be the bricks, the fixed bricks, the foundation of the building. Capricorn would be the blueprint, the architects of that building, the initiators of how that building was going to look. And Virgo is the one constructing that building, dealing with the everyday details, the mutable earth sign. So you can see every way of how things are going to play out. Capricorn, the sea goat, it comes from the 10th house, the public image. So it deals with everything. It's doing the blueprint because it knows how it's going to publicly look out, and then other people are going to see it. But they have to work, they have to analyze, think practically. So that's why, again, Capricorn have a tendency to be known as very stubborn in the way they practicalize things. But it's because they could see everything and they rely a lot on themselves. They just practicalize their thinking so much that they place boundaries in everything because they can start new things, so they can see new possibilities constantly and they can apply it in whatever they're doing. The life situation you're going to have that in is going to give you a better sense of where that's going to play out. Depending on where you have Capricorn, meaning Saturn, in, is also going to give you a better understanding of Capricornial and 10th house influences in your chart. And depending on how Saturn is aspected in your chart. If you have Saturn conjunct Venus, that means that you put a lot of thinking and practicality in the way you love. You apply a lot of your thinking and practicality. It's something you work on. It could play out in many different things. That's why astrology is a very deep tool that we have to look at astronomy first and then astrology, applying it to our life situation. It's looking at the whole mathematical equation. Why is Saturn so important? Saturn rules Earth. Everything in Earth is materialized. We have to work on it for us to see something. That's why Saturn is known also for hardships. It's known as Saturn returns. That's when we get our rewards. Saturn is known as a disciplined planet because we have to work on it. We have to work on these orbs in order to manifest whatever we want to manifest internally. If we put structure on whatever we're doing in an everyday, we're going to materialize that externally. They're ruled by the archetypal structure of Kronos, which is the Greek god of time, how we structure time. So depending on the boundaries we're putting on the time, on the people around us, then how we build. That's the archetype of Capricorn. When we look at the polar axis of Capricorn, we have Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So one is ruled by time, the other one is ruled by the moon, which is the emotions, our cycles within, our memory, everything that we have stored within. So that's why they work together. One is dealing with the internal life. How can we nurture the internal life? That's Cancer. And Capricorn is how can we materialize whatever we have internally, place boundaries externally, and build. That's why they're the seagull. They're always building. But sometimes if they don't acknowledge their emotions, they can become very, very cold and they can have a lot of build-up within them because they feel like no one else gets them and that everything is their responsibility because they can just see things. Whereas Cancer is correlated with the emotional life, so the internal transformation. How do I nurture my internal life? And how do I feel stable within me so I can mood shift whenever I want within me? That's inner work. Capricorn is how do I externalize that. But sometimes the polarity of Capricorn is that they dismiss their emotions. They don't nurture themselves. They only fuel their emotional life through their work. So they don't have time to dwell on their emotions. They build. That's what makes them the builders. That can make them override their emotions and not really take care of them because they're thinking always so practically. And that's the polarity of Cancer. You have to learn how to manage that within them so they can externally have everything balanced. And Cancer too. Cancer has to manage their own internal emotional shifts so it can also start to put all of that weight externally into something. But Capricorn only focuses on the external transformation, placing the boundaries, looking at the boundaries externally. It's cardinal earth. Capricorn is cardinal water. So they initiate and create new ways of structuring emotions, of mood shifting. So yeah, just a brief explanation, but when we really get to the root cause of each archetype, we can better understand how to blend their energies. And it's not this pseudo superficial thing that we just base our sun sign based on a prediction that we saw in a newspaper or that someone else said about us through TikTok. It's about understanding how can we intuitively blend all of our energies. It's not just your sun, your moon, all of your planets. It's how is my own unique 360 wheel playing out within my mathematical equation? How is all of this combined making me understand me? It's important to understand and start to decode astrology in a more practical lens, because when we just get other people's interpretations, we can start to misunderstand what we're perceiving about ourselves. And astrology is not this predictable thing that it tells you how your life is. No, it's like a blueprint about your own unique energies and how you can blend and use them. And you have to do the process and work of doing that shadow work within you, because no astrologer, no friend, no one externally can tell you what your birth chart feels like to you. You have to go within and see how it resonates to you. And you have to start uncovering that, because you might have to do so much shadow work that you're not even resonating with some of the energies. That's how we can start to decode where to look at specifically in your chart. For instance, if you look at your 8th house, that's a house correlated with transformation, shadow work, because it's after the 7th house, partnerships, one-on-one relationships, how we deal with the world. So the 8th house would be, how do we connect with the world? What is my desire now? Now that I get an understanding of other people's relationship aspects and how I can relate to the world, to other people, to everything exterior. The 8th house is, okay, what do I want from that world? From my relationships, from my exterior world, from everything. What do I internally deeply want? That's the 8th house. As Da Vinci said, to develop a complete mind, study the science of art, study the art of science. We have to become scientists of our own unique art. And that's how we can blend symbology, astrology, mythology, starting to catch up with how all of these pseudo broad things, when we put them into quantum physics, we can understand that everything is energy in a practical lens. We have to practicalize that quantum physics to understand better how to blend our own unique synergy, creating, and I'm not saying this lately, this is not an easy thing. For instance, I struggle a lot with communication since I grew up, because in my family, even though I have an amazing family and I'm very grateful for everything they give me, communication was not a priority. The emotional transformation of that wasn't either. So for me personally, I went through a lot of blockages with that. How I perceived it growing up is that everyone was against me. I perceive, but when I ground myself, when I look at my energies, for instance, my moon is in Capricorn in the 4th house, and I know how to balance my emotions. I know myself. I know that I have different elemental structures and a different synergy than other people, so I react different. It's not about staying with the archetypes, it's about self-disciplining the archetypes and taking care of them. How I take care of my Capricorn is I structure my emotions. I keep my emotional life structured. I like to put structure to that because I know that my Capricorn moon needs that in order for my sun to work with my moon, because the sun and moon work together in cycles, and your sun is your actions, your moon is your reactions. If my reactions are not right, then my actions cannot be executed right. So I know that first I have to check my moon. So it's practicalizing my emotions. I know you might not know me, but I've been posting videos about how to better understand your emotions and things that help me personally understand myself and creatively express myself. And that's how we can see a little bit of Capricorn. I'm building my emotions. We can see them practically put in a box through the videos I do on my form of self-expression. When we look at an archetype, it's really easy to see the polarity of that archetype because we get a clear understanding of the things we have to balance. So if I have my sun in Pisces, then I know that my polar opposite is Virgo, depending on where the degree falls in my sun, depending on what planet is aspecting. Everything is subjective, but that subjectivity is unique to you, and that's what makes this so deep and why you have to do the work yourself, why we have to go within ourselves. So yeah,